Hi.
Good morning.
Is that what this is? I have no idea.
Is it morning? Is
I
it
don't
afternoon?
know. Elliot.
Evening. I can't lie and say it's evening because I'm backlit
Sir,
here like
sir,
you
do we know? Yeah, well, that's because you are an angel. Hi, Mr. Buddy. Is it time? Oh, okay. Our producer is purringly telling me that we have a very special thing to start today,
Yes.
which is our new theme for the month of March. So excited. But before we get into that, for everybody who shared our last video on YouTube, wow, and thank you.
Yes.
My dad, thank you. Trisha, Potaro, thank you. And I know Mel. Our love to all of our Poe, Ohio fans.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. That
Skyrocketed in views.
amazing. Yeah. So within the first 48 hours, we had hit 150 views. That's never happened before. Now, whether they watched it all the way through or not, no clue. But the fact that we had that many, I was like, wait, what's happening? I'm like, I gotta double check that. I gotta put my glasses on. Am I really reading that right? And I was. And as of this morning, we were at 170 views. So got another 20 over the week. Not bad. Thanks.
Totally.
Now, if we can hopefully get some patrons on our Patreon, that would be great. We do have many different levels. Even if you just want to do a one-time donation, let us know. We do have rewards, little gifts for our various tiers, things like extra content, shout outs, like what I just did earlier. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes, gifts after remaining a patron for 6 months and 1 year. And yeah. Okay. So now that I've gotten all of that, like, ooh, wow, 170 views. Go us.
Right, we're
but
getting
it doesn't get there without help. So thank you, everyone.
Right.
We appreciate it. And now we're going to get started with our first episode of our new series we call The Price of Poe.
The sky, it's dark, and the wind is blowing. Come inside. Sit down with a cup of tea while we tell you a little story. A story that lies beyond the oblong box. With your hosts, Levi Leland and Virginia Poe.
Yes, I'm always sipping tea.
Sipping tea.
Yes, this morning it's Rose Black from Jolie Tea House in Salem. Not an ad, just love their tea. And they love me. They always send me very sweet notes in my boxes anytime I order tea, which is a lot. And often. So, and it's also, I'm a little chilly. I don't know why I'm chilly this morning, but I am. So this is a very nice warm cuppa. And I thought it would be a nice little sweet way to start this episode.
Yeah, we're talking about both your men today.
I know! Don't tell John Aston you just said that.
Oof. Yeah, hopefully he didn't hear that. Well, two of your men. We'll say that. Two of your men.
Yes. My very first that I can recall, with David Bowie, of course, obviously being my second, but the very first man that ever like made me go, And I believe the very first thing I ever saw him in was probably The Return of the Invisible Man. It wasn't a Poe movie.
Okay.
I believe it was The Return of the Invisible Man.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, fun fact. I tell you, I started watching horror movies at a really young age, which I know my mother wasn't always keen about, but like father, like daughter.
Yeah. And
I come by it honestly.
Price is a classic. He's just,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, he's a staple in the horror culture.
Of course, of course. So for anyone who was only half paying attention or skipped through anything, we are doing a series this month that is called The Price of Poe. This episode is called Vincent and the Poet. We are going to be talking all about, we already know about Edgar, but for those of you who don't know much about Edgar, Levi, give us a short summary.
Edgar, let's see.
Do you know anything about this man?
This is tough. Put on the spot here. I wish I knew anything about Edgar. Edgar, 19th century horror, well, known for his horror, short stories, and his poetry.
Yeah.
But critic.
Mm-hmm.
Major critic in his day.
Hatchet man.
Yeah, the Tomahawk Man. Known for hoaxes and pioneering genres like science fiction, and inventing mystery. He has so much under his belt as far as genres go and storytelling.
Yeah.
He
dabbled in art.
Dabbled in the visual arts. I wish we had more existing pieces. That. But oral lore tells us he was quite the visual artist as well as the verbal, the storytelling artist.
Sure.
He lived quite a short and tragic life, but very productive.
Very productive in his short time.
Yes, and I think he is one of the most popular American writers known worldwide. I mean,
absolutely.
They've done, I don't want to say studies, but they've done like surveys, worldwide, globally. And they've, and most other countries, when asked, name an American writer, they say Poe, which is crazy,
I know. So, but there we go.
Yeah. So that just proves it. That cinches it pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does that have to do with Vincent Price, we ask? Everything.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vincent Price. And I do have notes for a cheat sheet because, man, does my brain go 20 million tracks all at once.
Yeah, sometimes it helps to just see
in front what I'm talking about so I can keep in the timeline. So Mr. Price was one of many Vincents in his family. Again, another family with lots of renaming the same name. Happens a lot in families, I do believe, just in general. But he was born Vincent Leonard Price. He was born on May 27th in 1911 in St. Louis, Missouri.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he was born in Missouri. Okay.
Yeah, born in Missouri. Yeah, absolutely. Fun fact about his birthday. Not a lot of people actually know this, but he and Christopher Lee shared a birthday.
Okay. Another horror kind of
icon.
Staple.
Yeah.
He's an icon. Yeah.
Wait for it. And the other big horror icon of that time, Peter Cushing, his birthday is the day before their birthday. So the three of them were like this little trio. And they actually did, I can't remember, my brain just blanked. And that was not a note I took down when I was looking back through my stuff. But they actually did do some kind of a special together, all three of them. And I can't remember. I'll have to see if I can find that.
I think they collaborated on some Poe things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they were quite good friends. Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
So his father was, of course, Vincent Leonard. He was actually the president of the National Candy Company. His dad was a Candyman.
All right.
Candyman.
A little sweet to the poor.
No B's. I'm good. Although my name is Virginia, so
True.
Won't go look in a mirror later. His mother was Marguerite, and she went by Daisy. She actually was a costume designer.
Interesting. That's
cool. Yeah, and I didn't know that actually until earlier this week when I was trying to find out more about his mom, because I couldn't remember much about her. I knew his dad was a candy dude. And I was like, that's hysterical. But his mom, I was like, and I was flipping through something and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, she was a costume designer? Okay, things make a little bit more sense to me now. I have costume designers in my family and some performers, so I kind of think that's probably where I got my acting stuff from.
Yeah, the creativity is usually inherent.
Inherent, yeah, it runs. So he actually also very, very big into fine art, very much art connoisseur, so to speak. He was 12, I believe, was how old he was when he started to save money via various like little jobs and chores as a 12-year-old to buy this original Rembrandt sketch.
Wow. And
he earned enough money to buy this sketch. And that was his very first acquisition of fine art. Wow. He eventually did open up he opened several galleries with several friends. Some of them stayed lucrative for a while and then closed. Others closed and opened and closed just as quickly as they opened. He does have a center that is named after him in California. In LA, it is for, I forgot to write this down because I did know about this. It's one of the colleges in Los Angeles. It's not UCLA, but it's there is a gallery and fine arts center there with his name, which is pretty freaking cool. And it still is there today. I believe they have over 9,000 pieces in their collection, art-wise. Very cool. And he started that.
That's amazing.
Not too shabby, sir. Not too shabby.
Right.
But when he was a young man, he did go to Yale. If anybody's ever heard of that school.
Smart guy.
Where he got his BA in English. In 1934, he went to London to study art history there, and while he was in school there, he fell in love with another great love of his, acting. And he actually did have his first debut role. He played Prince Albert in the play. Why did it just go out of my head? Victoria Regina, where he obviously plays Prince Albert. He wowed a producer with his performance, and that producer decided that he was going to, Gilbert Miller was his name, and he decided that this show was now going to be done on Broadway with Vincent playing, you guessed it, Prince Albert. He got to act opposite of Helen Hayes.
Wow. She
played Victoria. So I was just like, I did, for whatever reason, that was something I didn't know for a really long time. When I found that out, I was like, whoa. Okay, so that for me, as you know, somebody who was very, very much into her acting career at a young age, it was just like, he got to act with Helen Hayes. Oh my God! Like, you know, so
Right.
it's kind of a stats thing. So in 1938, he came on to Orson Welles' theater company, which was called Mercury Theater. He had, I believe it was a 5-show contract with them. He did a lot of movies. His very first one was actually a romantic comedy. More than, I would say, his horror films make up maybe a quarter of his entire body of work. So even like he was not a primarily horror actor by any stretch of the imagination, but it's those roles that really put him on the map. So
much like Poe, honestly.
Exactly.
Works only a small fraction are horror. You know,
Right.
That's what we know Poe for.
Exactly.
So
very much, again, a little bit of a parallel there.
Yeah.
His first horror film would be 1953, and that was House of Wax. And that is really the movie that got a lot of people to really take note of him. He said that in his early days of acting, it was very difficult for him to land a lot of roles because he stood 6'4".
Yeah, he was a tall guy. I did.
He was a very tall man.
Yes.
Very tall man.
It's kind of hard to
taller than my dad or my papa. And they were tall dudes. So 6'4", yeah, that's pretty tall. But he did say that he had quite a difficult time getting work in his early days because of his height. But House of Wax really got him noticed. He did do animated films, voiceovers. He did a lot of voiceovers. Most people, you know, that were around in the 80s and 90s probably grew up listening to him, reading the bits of Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he kind of did it.
To be honest, I'm a Prince girl, okay? Sorry, no offense to any Michael Jackson fans out there. I appreciate him, and I appreciate his music, and the fact that he had a big influence on a lot of folks. I get it. I totally do. People feel this way about Poe. They may not be a fan, but they understand.
Exactly.
And I'm a Prince girl. But because Vincent did that on the Thriller album, of course, I listened to the entire album all the way through, hoping that I would hear more Vincent Price, and it's only that song, and I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
But I cannot help but to get happy and smile anytime I hear Thriller because I know what's coming. And it makes my heart just like, I get all fluttery. Yeah. Kids shouldn't get fluttery when they hear that kind of a song. I knew kids that were terrified of that song.
Yeah.
When it first came out. And I was just like loving it. I was like, but that's Vincent Price. How can you be scared? Like, it just didn't compute to my brain.
Right.
Anyhow, so he also, now this one is one of my favorites. I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan. I've seen him before, live in concert. Yes, I'm a hello, Elliot. Apparently, Elliot's wanting me to sit still and bouncing my legs. Can I have my arm? Mommy needs her arm, buddy. Sorry. Our producer is being very needy today. He's being very needy. So he did do some work with Alice Cooper on his Welcome to My Nightmare album. And later on a TV special, I believe in 1975, he appeared as the spirit of the nightmare for Alice Cooper's, on-air performance spectacular of that album. So he was also made into a Muppet on Sesame Street.
Okay.
Which he said was a great honor and privilege for him.
Right.
He loved
You
that.
made it when you're a Muppet.
I know, right? And not just like he made it as a Muppet.
Right.
Good job, sir. Good job. Because that really is, I mean, for me, that's like the tops. And then, unfortunately, he, of course, had his last movie in Edward Scissorhands in a role that was written specifically just for him. The role of the inventor was supposed to be a much larger role, but because of how ill he was, they had to really limit how long he was in front of the camera and seen. So unfortunately, that was what we got. So, anytime I watch that, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of getting choked up. Like, when I watch that scene, it is very hard to watch that scene because you know that he's really sick there.
Yeah. And that's probably where I first kind of saw Vincent Price was in that movie, because I was a big Tim Burton, Johnny Depp fan, in my younger years. So I used to watch all those movies, and yeah, I remember in that movie specifically, he, Price just had such a presence on film. You could see he was such a conditioned, actor, and just,
yes,
and character. He had so much character to him. And yeah, that movie was probably the first time I did see him.
Right.
And yeah, it was pretty spectacular. And I think I learned afterwards that was actually his last film ever that he was a part of. And
right.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that The Thief and the Cobbler is his last film. He did the voice of one of the characters in that, which is oftentimes compared to Aladdin. But it was the last thing of his that was released, but it was not the last thing that he did. The last thing he did was Edward Scissorhands. That animated movie took 23 years to come out.
Oof.
And I don't believe it came out until either 1994 or 1995, some few years after Aladdin came out. But yeah, so a lot of people are like, when I talk to folks about that, they're like, oh, but didn't he do that animated movie? Wasn't that the last thing he did? I'm like, no, that movie actually took a really long time to come out. So it just happened to be the last thing that got released. But yeah, so, that in a nutshell, that is Vincent Price. He did have 3 wives. He was married to his first wife for about 10 years. His second wife was the mother of Victoria. He and his first wife had his son, Vincent III. And then his final wife was an actress also. And she is the one that convinced him to actually go for one of his most ambitious roles, which was a one-man play about Oscar Wilde, which he performed for quite some time. I believe he performed it in over 80 cities. Oftentimes the engagements were held over and with standing ovations.
Wow.
So it's, yeah, he was quite a prolific actor. I feel I have every right to use that word and his name together, because he really did. I mean, he, much like Poe, he had many different facets, many different avenues that he liked to go down and explore within his art, within his acting. He sang, so he had a love for music, again, much like Edgar. And then, of course, he would become very well known, not just for his, and what I honestly do feel it is probably the most incredible reading of The Raven that I think anyone can ever record. of course, is by him.
Yeah.
Which I know he would sometimes do publicly, but his recording is probably the most famous recording of the Raven. No offense to any of my friends who have done it.
No offense to us.
It. Jason, Signet and Swan doing their Raven Mad. They're all. There's so many interpretations out there. It's fantastic, but you gotta hand it to the master.
Right.
Like Vincent just does it.
Yeah.
And he does it up big. But he would also be known for his teamwork with, which is what our subject of the month of March is about, with Mr. Roger Corman, doing 8 films during the 1960s with American International Pictures, doing adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe stories and poems. So there we go. And what can you tell us, sir? I'm going to let you talk about this because I have been running my mouth about a very tall, handsome man. But what can you tell us about this tall, handsome man's physical, well, no, not physical, but like actual connection with Westminster Abbey, Hall. Other side of the pond. That's the other side of the pond.
The other side. Oh boy.
More tea. Time for more caffeine.
Yes. So Price and Poe.
Yes.
So Poe, of course. Now Price and Poe, which is where the two tracks kind of meet, is the whole Roger Corman films, right?
Sure.
And I think a lot of people, and I want to say from that era when those movies were coming out, that's where they were first introduced to Poe, through Price.
Mm-hmm.
But I've even heard, I think we lost you.
Me?
Yes, we did. You kind of went in and out.
Oh, I didn't say anything though.
Okay, well that's good. So
your video is frozen a few times as well today, so.
Oh God, it's one of those.
But I hear your audio, so you're fine.
All right, perfect.
We're good. We're good.
I thought I lost you there.
No scary sounds this week.
Not this week. Just from Price and Poe.
Yes.
So the Corman film, and this is where we're going to kind of get the ball rolling in future in the subsequent episodes after this. But yeah, Price was a huge usher into Poe for some people. Yeah, right. Thank you.
He'll be here all week, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow folks.
Yes. Those films are such a staple for Poe's legacy in a way,
Mm-hmm.
They were the first kind of modern adaptations of Poe's works in a way, for that era. Like people were seeing Poe in a new medium,
Mm-hmm.
through those films, and they're such classics. So, there are so many people that I've talked to about Poe who who essentially were first introduced to Poe through Price in those films. So we do owe Vincent Price quite a bit for helping, as I said, usher generations of Poe fans into this day and age. And so we're going to get into those in like I said, the subsequent episodes.
Yeah. And he has spoken about Poe right there.
Yeah.
At the burial grounds.
Yeah, where Poe, so the two have actually met as close as they could.
Possibly do.
There's a great photograph of, and I have a poster of it, that Jeff Jerome had taken of Vincent Price at the Poe Monument. So we have these two figures intersecting in this form of storytelling, essentially. And so yeah, it's exciting. And Price was there, and he spoke about Poe, and he took the tour. So he was very much a Poe fan, outside of the films and outside of his characters as an actor in Poe-related films. He was as much as a fan outside of that. He was genuinely, interested in Poe.
Yeah, and I'll save that fun fact for the next episode, because there is something that I can speak on authority with, but I'll save that part for the next episode. I don't want to give away all the goods.
Right.
Now.
It's easy to give everything away, because you just want to get it out. Yeah, we got to save some things.
Things. Keep people coming back.
Right. Exactly.
But I think that's a very good introduction for folks.
Yes.
I think we did well.
So. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we leave, before we say adieu, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Wait, why am I going into Sound of Music? Oh boy. Anyhow.
More tea.
more tea. Clearly, I need more tea. But before we leave, just reminding everyone that yes, April 1st and 2nd at the Telltale Steampunk Festival, we will be doing a live audience. Wait. One moment. A live before a studio audience filming of our podcast. We're actually going to do 2 episodes, 4:30 to 5:30, and then that's going to be in the main ballroom. Also, our Poe buds from 6 Degrees of Poe, they're going to be there as well. So it's going to be a great fun time.
Very exciting.
I don't know who else is coming. I'm very excited to see them. And hopefully Annabelle's will still be open during that so that we can all go to dinner there together. I would very much like that. So Carmen, Jeannie, if you heard that, put that on your calendar.
Pencil it in.
Yeah, pencil it in. You've been warned. Let's see. And then, find us on YouTube. Find us on Patreon, please. If you like our podcast, we very much appreciate any support that we get. Sharing, liking, subscribing, becoming a patron. That would all be very lovely so we can keep the proverbial lights on and keep this going because it ain't cheap. So until next time, see everyone later.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
You've been listening to Beyond the Oblong Box with your hosts, Levi Leland and Virginia Poe. This program is produced by EG&L Brothers Limited with production assistance by Peter D. Come Rest in This Bosom, arranged and performed by the Ninth Heaven. You can find us online on Facebook at BTOB Podcast, on Instagram at Beyond the Oblong Box, or reach us by email btob1847@gmail.com. If you'd like to help our show grow, consider becoming a patron by visiting patreon.com/Beyond the Oblong Box Podcast. You can also subscribe, rate, or review the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your preferred podcast platforms.